The Irrational Confidence Podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football, and it is week number one, but week number one was so full with so many great games. We've turned it into a two-part episode. I'm joined by my co-host, the man that shouts out sidewalks for keeping him off the streets. Fresh, how you doing, buddy?
Thank God college football is back. We had a fun week 0. Iowa State, K-State, a little sloppy first half, but this week 1, smorgasbord. As I said, we need 2 episodes to cover the full spectrum of all the games. And now we're diving into some of the big boys, the big battles of week 1, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, the heavy hitters are here, but we got to get through this whole entire season, but we can't do that without any of you all. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, get notified every single time we drop a new episode fresh. You said that this is a bunch of heavy hitting games, and there may not be a bigger game this weekend than 1 versus 2 in Columbus, Ohio. It's the Texas Longhorns versus the Ohio State Buckeyes. At this point right now, Ohio State is a 1.5-point favorite. Over-under is set at 47.5. This has got intrigue. It's a rematch from last year's college football playoff. It is Lee Corso's final game on College Game Day, an icon of that. And it's 2 teams that are going to be competing for a national title. This is where their journey starts. I don't know what more we can say about leading into this game here, Fresh. This is probably it. The fact that it's at noon bothers me a touch, but maybe we'll get it out of the way and it'll be just that great start of a Saturday.
I mean, you got 2 heavyweights, especially coming into the season. Heavyweights from a logo standpoint, heavyweights from a notoriety standpoint. Settling it with expectations entering the season just makes it that much more special. You have, last year you mentioned the college football playoff semifinal where if you look at the final score, you're like, man, the game wasn't close. But if you watch the game,
Right.
it was really 2 major plays that really swung the difference. It was the screen pass for the touchdown, and then Jack Sawyer taking it on the fumble, ending the long drive, and taking all the way to score the house. And that kind of really turned it on its head. So they were definitely going back and forth there. Being the season opener, how much is these teams going to show? How much is this game actually going to weigh in the committee's mind? Does everyone really want to show their full spectrum? Are guys playing nervous? We're not going to get the full Buckeyes Longhorns football team that we might get late November, December, January. We are going to get guys trying to figure it out, especially on the Ohio State side where Julian's saying, make his first ever start. But no preseason, only practicing scrimmage games. This is going to be a test. What is Texas going to do to throw at him? We talked about during our previews 1 through 5 and 5 through 10, 6 through 10, and our top 25 overall, and how these teams are going to evolve. Well, this game right here, you have this Buckeye team losing a lot of the guys up the national championship team outside of Jeremiah Smith, but the receiver room is pretty solid. Offensive line needs to be rehashed out. Running back room has some solid talent, but we need to see what we're going to get there. Defense lost a lot of players, but everyone looks at the quarterback. How is Sane going to set in? How is he going to be able to get in sync with Tate, with Smith, and the rest of the guys? How is Claire going to work out? How is Donaldson at running back going to handle? These are all the questions I think Buckeye fans are going to be ready for. It's going to be half a celebration. Everyone's going to be defending national champions. We're going to be partying up at the parking lot, of Corso, and obviously Bruce being his first love. But once that game kicks off, and maybe that second or third drive where some of this first game jitters kind of wear off, who's going to settle in the fastest? On the other side, look at Texas. We must as well get the Arch, make him the first overall pick. His granddad come in and do duties for Eli and move stuff around. They have questions too. When he was on the field for Texas last year, outside of playing scrubs, he was, I'm going to say above average at best. There was nothing that amazingly stood out that this guy's like, all right, he's the real deal. We've all talked about. There's a reason why he was still behind yours. If he was that good, he would have been playing. He came in spot duty every once in a while, or they were up on big and sat out. So he now has to live up to expectations. His first true, I'm going to call this a true start. Not at home versus Mississippi State or at home versus Southwest, New Mexico, whatever state university. You're going to the shoe, and you've got to be ready and be locked in. And you're Matthew Golden gone. Isaiah Bond gone from the receiver core last year. Helms gone. You lost some running back depth. You lost some offensive line depth yourself. How fast during spring practice and fall camp did you get to completely gel? The only thing I heard out of camp was he's a great runner. He has great legs. I didn't hear receivers talk about his arm strength or his touch on the football. They were talking about how he's mobile. Okay, great. We're not running the triple option, the single wing, or the wishbone here. So, what from a passing standpoint can you do and sustain for the entire football game and lead in the fourth quarter, a big drive, convert a big third down? Because up to this point, we haven't seen it. And I'm going to kind of compare it to the Shadur Sanders situation with the Browns. There's a lot of hype on the name. The name is carrying you. But if you took the name away and we just looked at blind resume, would we talk about him being a great quarterback or would he just be a quarterback? During his last game with the Browns wasn't fantastic, but he was leading off on ESPN because of the last name alone. So is the last name and legacy carrying more expectations than what we've actually seen on the field? Texas defense is going to be really, really good. A lot of talent, especially in the front seven coming back. I think that is going to be a big moment. Now, there may have been two players who were talking some smack in leading up in camp to this football game and talking about saying what he has to offer. So how does Simmons and how does Anthony Hill and Taffy, and Trey Moore, and the rest of those guys back it up when they show up? Everyone's always kind of, for Texas, has been the Texas is back. Yeah, but now's the chance for you to showcase. You did it. Hey, you went to Alabama a couple of years ago and you found a way to win. Can you go up here to Ohio State and find a way to win? Where's the mentality of this football team? Are they just going to be a Texas football team of the past where it's like, yeah, but they're good, but they're not great? Or is this a turning point in Sark's administration with the Longhorns where they are actually going to truly be seen as a legit threat and a consistent, dominant effort? I'm intrigued. I think this is going to be a slow starting football game, and we're going to see guys play a little jittery and maybe a little tight early on, trying to get settled in. I see we might also see coaches rotating a lot of players, just get the guys in the game, let them get a lather going. Maybe not in your true rotation, but you got to get the guys out there and get them ready to play. See who's going to be ready to go. It's been a long training camp, long fall practice. The running game for both teams is going to be extremely important to set the tone. Let the offensive line get going. Let them find a group because obviously we're rotating a bunch of new starters. Which group of running backs is going to be great? Wisner over there leading the group at Texas. I think they go 5 deep in my opinion. If I'm Sark, I lean on my running game. Let Arch grow into the offense. Do not let him feel pressure. We have to throw 30, 40 times a game. Same thing for Sayan. That pass rush starts teeing off late in the ball game. You're in trouble. So I expect both sides run the football, play it, keep it tight. If you blow somebody out, fantastic. But if you can keep the game tight, it's just a measuring stick for both of you. One team's obviously has to lose and one team has to win. That's just the way it is. You're not going to have a tie. But control the game for your young quarterbacks. Do not put them in situations right now to be exposed, to lose confidence, to get flustered, to create an unnecessary quarterback controversy. Use your ground game, run the football, control the clock, play it through, set the tone, and then get out of this game verbally healthy and move on to the rest of your regular season. Because these two teams might most likely meet in the playoff itself. So use this as a measuring stick and sort of set yourself and go forward. In the end, I think Texas's defense has enough to be able to get them over. But if Texas wins, it's by 3 points, and that's gonna be about it. This is gonna be a back and forth ball game, very run heavy, old school slobber knocker, if you will. And it's gonna be a great way to kick off the game this basically of the season for everybody. Everyone's gonna be tuning in, all eyes in the world, and you're watching. But I think Texas wins by 3, but this will not be the last time these two teams meet in 2025 sixth season.
So, Fresh, that's the first time you've ever picked against Ohio State when they weren't playing Georgia in the time of this podcast so far.
That is it.
And we'll put that out there. We're going into this football game with, as I was listening to other things throughout the day and trying to get as much feel for this game as humanly possible. Both of these teams are not returning a ton of production. Both teams are in the 80s, whether or not they have what percentage of their production that is coming back. There's 3 major things that I'm kind of wondering with this. Number one, which quarterback is comfortable the quickest in this game? And it's going to come down, is Peoples and Donaldson able to run the football against the Texas defensive line? That's got to be the number one thing, because a running game is going to help you quite a bit. Same thing goes with Weisner and Baxter. is Wisner and Baxter going to be able to run against the Ohio State front line? Whichever team is able to control the line of scrimmage early on in this game, where you start, again, you might not take a big shot, but you're throwing body blows at that defense. I think that that's going to really bode well. I'd really watch who's going to be the leading rusher, or which team has the most rushing yards, I should probably say, by the end of the first quarter. That's going to start telling me quite a bit of where this game is heading. So that's the very, very first thing. Second thing is who can get a major turnover? Who can force the first mistake out of somebody? Both of these are young quarterbacks. All right. This is a hostile environment. It's going to be loud. Are you going to be able to stay calm in the situation? Are you going to be able to make the right read and not throw an ill-timed interception there? We talked about Caleb Downs, and there's an argument that Caleb Downs is the best defensive player in college football. There's a guy on this Texas team that I say has an argument. You take a look at Anthony Hill Jr. That guy is a monster. He is in my personal opinion, Hill's the best linebacker in college football. If I'm needing a linebacker in the NFL, that's my number one kid going into this year because he's got that sideline to sideline speed. Which one of these guys is going to be able to make that big play? Get your offense a short field, be able to turn over a lot of things. And then which head coach feels it? And I was thinking about this the more I went into my dive in this. The monkey is off Ryan Day's back by winning a national title last year. He has job security. He has championship to go with it. We'll talk about the game later on in the year, but the dude has won that game before. It's not like he's Jim Harbaugh against Urban Meyer and he's gone like 0-6. Like, he does have a win. Yes, the last 4 have not worked out for him, but he does have a win in that rivalry. So let's not pretend over this. And another thing, too, fans, don't get bent out of shape. And this goes for Texas and Ohio State fans. Do not get bent out of shape based on the results of this game. These are the 2 of the probably top 5 teams in the country, arguably, talent-wise, definitely. Someone's got to win, someone's got to lose at the end of the day. The thing that I settled on by the time I was done with this was, what is the big game Sark has won in his time at Texas? The only game I can think of is at Tuscaloosa, the second time they played Alabama. So they played Alabama, they lose by like a point in that game, and then they beat Alabama the following year in Tuscaloosa. And that's it. That's the most memorable game of Steve Sarkisian's time at Texas. I think he needs to have this, because here's the thing. If he doesn't win this game, flamed out in the playoffs twice, lost to Washington, lost to Ohio State last year, got dismantled twice by Georgia last year in their first year in the SEC. It's great. Texas is a program that will beat substandard teams very easily. You're going to beat the Arkansas. You're going to beat the Ole Misses, the Mississippi States, the Oklahomas right now. You're going to win those games. This is the game that Sark has had a hard time winning. I think he needs to win this game really to keep Texas fans happy, because Texas has spent so much money on NIL. I think they're desperate to win this football game. And this is going to surprise people. I think Texas wins this football game. I am actually going to pick against my Ohio State Buckeyes in week 1, because, again, I've always prided myself on being a person who is unbiased and tries to see things as straight down the middle as possible. You asked me if they play this game in the second round of the playoff, if I still would feel that Texas would win this game. I don't know. That's a different thing, because you'd have a full season where the offensive line has had time to get together, that defense has had time to bring in all of the new pieces. But I think Texas is going to win this football game. I think Texas is going to be, I got this closer to, you said, a 2.5, 3-point game. But again, if you told me any result of this game happens, I would believe you. Like, again, you say, Ohio State wins on a nail biter. Yeah, I can see it happening. Ohio State blows out Texas. I can see that happening. Texas comes into Columbus, blows out Ohio State. I can see that happening. Texas wins by a field goal at the last second of the game. I can see that happening. I can see any result happening in this game because there's so many new pieces on both programs. But you know what? I'm going to go with the desperation of Sarkisian right now and saying he needs this game more than anything else because he needs to appease the Texas boosters. Because if he loses this game, he's got to win the SEC. He's got to win the SEC now, or win a national title. It's got to be one of those things that happens. Like you have to win a big logo type game, as we call them here, Fresh, or you got to win your conference, or you got to hoist the championship trophy at the end of the year. If those things don't happen, what are we doing? What are we doing here, Texas? Like Sark's a great offensive mind, great play caller. Just needs to be better than what they've gotten out of him so far.
Well, right now you see return on investment. Michigan
Right.
basically paid $20 million for a national championship. Ohio State, they went through NIL, but they used the $20 million. They won a national championship. You've already spent ridiculous amounts of money for your signing class, especially going after, Atkinson and Justice Terry, among many others. You got to deliver because eventually boosters are like, well, why am I paying this much money? Where
Right.
is my return? I mean, you're heavy hitters are like they're Texas boosters. They already the mid level people who keep pumping the extra money that's spendable. Like, why am I giving my dollar for nothing when I'm already spending X amount to travel, X amount for hotels, to see losses? Well, that has to eventually kick in. We've got to deliver something to get the return on that investment for the fan base, because then it becomes just another expense and not being part of a championship run.
Right. All right, Fresh. Let's go to our second game this weekend. This game is in Death Valley. No, it's not in Louisiana, unfortunately, not in that Death Valley. It's in the Death Valley that is in South Carolina. The LSU Tigers are going to travel to Clemson. Clemson's a 4-point favorite at time record. Over-under is at 57.5. Fresh, I just talked about how much Sarkisian needs a win in Columbus. I think the only person in college football that needs a win week one more than Steve Sarkisian is Brian Kelly in LSU. I don't know, man. I don't know. What do you got for LSU Clemson?
I mean, you mentioned that LSU hasn't won a season opener since 2019. That was a Joe Burrow era football team. You could say they lost to an average USC team last year. They lost to a very good Florida State team in 23. They lost to an up and coming Florida State team, but both those teams looked sloppy in 22. 21, and then 20 lose their opener as a COVID year, but they lose the opener after losing all after that national championship run to Mississippi State. So you need to come out and get a job done. I don't think it doesn't matter. I don't think LSU fans would care if they won 7-6 or 56-55. As long as they get 1-0 start to the season, they'll be happy. But they're not. You have to give LSU some credit. They're not shy. They're going to play named schools to open the season for the most part. They're not playing Delta State or Southwest Galveston State University. Like they're actually going to play some named schools.
Right.
So you got to give them credit there. Oh, UCLA was the other loss. But this is a mindset with the NIL movement last year in the offseason. They had a lot of deficiencies. How do they boost that team? They lost a lot on the offensive line. How do they keep that receiver room firm? And also, most importantly, how do they get that defense back to being LSU standard defense? Because we really haven't seen LSU standard defense.
I don't know why.
The 2019 team, that defense wasn't elite. That wasn't even the same standard. Their offense was so good, they weren't shutting people down. Weeks and Perkins, both, if they could stay healthy, they're tackling machines. Who in that secondary is going to really truly rise up and become a shutdown? Really, who's going to embrace the DBU mantra, lock down that secondary? Who in that front on the defensive line in the trenches is actually going to get after it and cause the pass rush and really cause disruptions? I mean, Carol Perkins and Weeks at linebacker are fantastic and they have a good depth at that linebacker spot. But the defensive line is going to keep guys off of them, and that secondary is going to have to shut people down. Who's actually matured and wants to be a leader? And who's going to step up every single game especially in the road to open up here in the shadow of Howard's Rock. Offensively, Garrett Nussbaum coming in with a lot of pub. Hey, he's going to sling it around. I think he's a very, very good quarterback. I think both quarterbacks in this game are very good. But the receivers, who's going to be that consistent guy? Who's going to step up? Jaden Daniels was fantastic, but he had neighbors to really help him, among many others. Who in this squad is really going to step up? We've listed them in our preview. There's a host of receivers that are going to step up and make plays for him. But who's going to be that go-to in big time third down? Is it going to be Aaron Anderson again, who's going to be stepped up like he did last year late? Or is it going to be somebody else who's going to slide in and really take that role to the next, elevate themselves and pick it up? We're going to see a lot. Barry at Kentucky did a great job. But how's he going to blend into this offense? There's a whole host of other guys who rotated in. In the running game, Durham, he showed a lot of flashes last year. How does he take that next step? And then where's that depth at running back that will be able to give him a spell when it's needed? How do you make up for Campbell being out? There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of hype. But how do all these guys get ready to rock and roll? Defensively, going into the portal, adding Pybra and adding other pass rushers, how quickly do they get gelled and able to get after the quarterback and shut down the running game? There's a hype there. There's standards. Obviously, we talk LSU, and everyone's talking LSU, not just us. They're in that playoff conversation of like, this is the time. They need to get back in there. But if you want to get in the playoff, you need this game more than anything else because look, in my opinion, you're probably going to have a loss or two in the SEC. You need to beat the best team in the ACC on their own turf to give you some extra credence and flexibility and a little buffer. I think Texas and Ohio State, that game isn't going to mean that much when it comes down to the seeding, I think, at the end of the year. But LSU, if you go to Clemson to get that win, this game might be that one buffer, one like, hey, remember that game? They beat the ACC champion in their stadium with all the lights shining. Okay, that's a bumper because I think the one thing we always talk about, the committee does forget what happened in August. You have to make sure that they remember what happened in August. In September, all have to matter when you look at the full resume. So be focused, be locked in, play with an edge with you. They did not play with an edge last year versus USA. They looked very lethargic. They looked asleep. They looked sloppy. I mean, we all see the picture of Brian Kelly smashing the table looking like a fool. I felt his pain because it's like they were doing dumb stuff. In my job, I'm the manager of a team. My team does the hard stuff really good. They do the easy stuff really, really bad. That's partly on me, but it's partly on them for being lazy. Like, how do you get focused in all areas, not just the tough stuff, but also the easy stuff that you think is repetitive and nonchalant? Get yourself in there, lock down the easy stuff. If you can do the easy stuff right, you're going to do the hard stuff even better. And that's what LSU has to rock in. Clemson, Dabo, they were going through a rough stretch there, and I think he level set with the team. They cleaned some house with some guys I think they were recruiting but weren't actually producing. Now they have some dudes who are actually back to that standard of the middle 2015 area of 2016, 2017, where that Clemson team that program was good. They were really loaded. That especially on the defensive side here, that front seven, we told Woods and we know TJ Parker, and many others, Woodaz and Sammy Brown linebacker and Terrell at corner. They have some players. Can that defense get after him right and lock it down early on? Can Cade Klubnik and that offense get going with Williams and company? I do have questions about the Clemson offensive line and the Clemson running game. But if they can get anything out of any kind of protection in the running game that can give them some decent yards in the football game, it allows Klubnik and that passing game to take the next step and allow that defense to get some rest. This might be the best game we're going to see of the weekend. Just got to think both these teams are going to have the extra juice because it's at night. I knew kickoff's one thing, but at night, these teams are going to be fired up and getting after it. I'm going to say we are going to get a 24-21 LSU win on a game-winning drive. It'll be 21-17, and Garrett Nussmeier will take it down the field and find a way to punch it in and get the dub, get that monkey off Brian Kelly's back. But it is going to be pure cinema. I could see both teams winning by 10 points in this game. This one's going to be a locked-in. This is going to be a 4-hour football game, too. So make sure you pace yourself all day long. The victor will go back to the real Death Valley, and the Bayou Bengals will finally get that monkey off their back and win a season opener.
Here's one thing that I'm kind of weird, fresh, that I feel like no one's talking about leading up to this football game. No one's talking about Clemson's defensive line versus LSU's offensive line. I feel like everyone's kind of ignored that fact. I think the story and what people want to talk about is all about, Brian Kelly. I haven't won a opening season game since, however long. LSU itself, Ed Orgeron was the head coach last time we won a season opener. Everyone wants to talk about that. Is LSU able to protect Nussmeier? If he was able to stay upright, if that running game, if Durham's able to have holes to run. Because if you take a look at the defensive line for Clemson, has two of the best players in that whole area. I think outside of the kid over at South Carolina, which we're going to talk about them here in a little bit, I think LSU has got to account for those guys. If they don't, then I think this is going to get real ugly in a hurry. And the thing that I, again, keep getting nervous about is, are they going to turn Garrett Nussmeier into Niedermeyer, where he's running around for his life and he can't get the ball out on time anymore? Okay. A little bit of a hyperbole, but what I'm thinking about with when I come down to this football game. The other thing I really want to see is LSU legitimately a national title contender. Like, you need to look good against LSU for us to take you seriously. I get it. You beat SMU. You let SMU come back in the football game last year in the second half when you had them down. That gives me a little bit of pause. But is Clemson able to win a football game? You're at home. First game of the season for your fan base. Crowds are going to be wild. They're going to be amped up for this football game. You got LSU coming into your building, and are you able to go toe-to-toe? Are you able to survive their punches, and they're able to kind of take your back and forth? Is there a point where Clemson just says, no, this is us, this is who we're going to be, and we're going to dominate this football game? If someone wants to do that, it's going to have to be led through Klubnik and this wide receiver room, because I don't trust this running game. I don't trust the running backs here at Clemson. I haven't seen enough out of them. Is it going to be Randall? Is it going to be me, if I'm saying that even right? Or are you going to go to like Gideon Davis out of the true freshman to kind of get you there? I don't think they have to rely on the running game, but it's got to be existent there. You can't just rely on the passing attack as well. For me, I think we're going to learn a lot about either program at the end of this week. If Clemson doesn't win this game, I think the ACC is going to be fighting, and I don't care how the rest of the weekend goes. Tech could beat South Carolina. Miami could beat Notre Dame. UNC, all of them. All of the other teams in the ACC get a win. Unless Florida State beats Alabama, if Clemson doesn't win this game, it's a telltale sign of what the ACC is going to be dealing with the rest of the year. Both of these programs desperately need this game like they need air to breathe. Fresh, I hate picking Clemson, but guess what? I'm going to go Clemson Tigers. I think the pass rush of Parker and Woods is going to, I don't think enough people are accounting for those two guys right now. I just get that weird sense. Shouldn't we be talking about Woods and Parker? Shouldn't we be bringing them up a whole lot more than just Brian Kelly and his deficiencies? I feel like I'm talking about like a medical commercial here with certain pill he needs to take to win a first week college football game. So I'm going with Clemson.
And let's look at the last two members. You bring up a point where that team, they had a huge lead on them early. SMU came back in the second half. And then they gave Texas all they could handle in the playoff game in Austin. So there was something that happened mid to late last year for that Clemson football team that turned it on, because the opener in the first half, it was 3-0 Georgia. And in the second half, they got smoked. And then they started putting 60 and 70 points on people after that. And maybe that loss to Georgia in last year's opener was the best thing to happen to Dabo and Clemson football. It kind of reset them, the program's dead. And then as the season progressed, they just started putting points up and playing better. So maybe this is the chance for them to sort of re-announce that they are truly back, and have never, or in most cases, never actually left. They were just sort of rebuilding, if you will. But we'll find out, because if they don't, maybe last year was just a perfect mess. But the ACC needs somebody to really take hold and show that the league is still strong and it can carry them deep. Oh, and also, folks, prepare your eyes. There will be a lot of orange on your TV sets this weekend between Syracuse and Tennessee, Clemson, Virginia Tech, Miami. Oh, I'm already dreading having to watch a lot of orange on my TV, but well, at least it's football and we can survive that way.
Yeah. All right, Fresh. Let's go to the other game that I'm very, very intrigued about. Virginia Tech is playing South Carolina. It's a neutral site game. It's in Charlotte, correct? That's right,
Yeah,
because
it's
we
on
have two games.
Sunday afternoon. Yeah.
We have two games in Atlanta, and the other one's in Charlotte. It's Virginia Tech versus South Carolina. At time of record, South Carolina is only an 8-point favorite in this game. A little bit of disrespect there. Over under is at 52.5. All right. So if you've been listening to this podcast for a minute here, one thing I'll say is recently I'm a big fan of Lenore Sellers. I'm buying into the hype. I think he's an amazing football player. I'm very high on him going into this season. For 5 years, I've been begging for one thing. I've been begging for Virginia Tech to pull themselves off of the map, show signs of life, and come back to the glory that is supposed to be Hokie football. I like Virginia Tech. I don't know why I really like them. I always thought it was fun with Michael Vick in the video games to play with him, and way back when. Virginia Tech, this is your shot. Like, you have one chance this season outside of maybe a game in the ACC, but we've talked about the ACC could have a stigma about them. They could have a stank on them before you know it. Virginia Tech wins this football game. It could lessen that smell coming out of the Atlantic Coast Conference. But, man, tough, tall task to ask for to beat South Carolina. Fresh, what you got for them?
Yeah, I mean, ACC needs some good vibes.
They do.
Stanford losing to Hawaii, and they look pretty bad.
Take it
Virginia
on
Tech
them.
needs to show up. Clemson, obviously, this game will be the night before. If they don't show up or if they lose, what does Florida State do versus Alabama? There's a lot of questions to ACC in this opening weekend, and this is another showcase opportunity for the conference and for Virginia Tech to get after it. And you're not just playing South Carolina, not just playing the SEC. You're playing a team that has playoff talk and playoff hype, and a quarterback who has Heisman talk and Heisman hype. So you can really make a statement. Your head coach is defensive, first and foremost. You should be able to get these boys ready to play. They lost a lot of talent off last year's roster. I thought last year that was the team for Virginia Tech to really break through and get it done. They should have beat Miami. That they were robbed of that one. But Drone's losing your number one receiver. You lose your top running back. You lose your number one corner. Who on this team outside of Drones is going to show up and make a name for themselves? You're looking at this offensive line for Virginia Tech. Are they ready to take on a South Carolina front seven that is extremely athletic, extremely aggressive? Dylan Stewart's there, but you also have Brian Thomas, you have Clowney, the host of these tackles are players. You got some very athletic linebackers. That is what I'm worried about from Virginia Tech's standpoint. Is that offensive line actually ready to protect drones, and who's going to catch the football consistently for them? One thing, you also look at the South Carolina defense. They got two solid corners. Kilgore as that star position. His other brothers are one of the safeties. And we saw what South Carolina's defense did last year to some teams. They got after it. You cannot get down early and let them be released. They're going to come into this game playing in Atlanta, in the Benz with the lights and the glitz and glamour. The only show on in town. 3:00 kickoff on a Sunday afternoon. All eyes are on the Gamecocks and all eyes are on the Hokies. People are going to be watching. And you had better be showing up and playing, because if not, it's going to send a message in recruiting. It's going to send a message to the conferences. All right, they're a wounded duck, or, oh, we got to watch out for them. They're legit. You got to be, make sure you're fired up and ready to play. I got a feeling Shane Bieber is going to put the boots to him, run the score up, send a message. He knows his team was on the fringe last year of the playoff, and they got screwed by the refs versus LSU at home. They had a lost opportunity at Alabama. There's a motivation factor. And I got a feeling he's going to release the dogs, or in this case, birds, and let Cocky get after it. Sellers, how do you handle the hype of being a Heisman finalist? You showed up late last year. You single-handedly carried them past Clemson, kept yourself in the conversation, really shook up the playoff itself. It was. How do you take that next step and be consistent every single week, show up every single play, and also keep yourself healthy? Sometimes learning I have to run out of bounds and not take that extra yard to get hit. Save your body for the long run. Because if you're out, is Aaron Noland or whoever the backup quarterback is going to be the same standard? No. You're going to have to keep the team going and let everyone else build around you. Rest of that offense. The offensive line, I do have questions about for South Carolina. Running game, I think they're pretty solid deep, especially since Faison got approved today and got his waiver. Nick Harbor, Brown, Bennett Jr., Smith at tight end. There's talent on that offense. Make sure you're there. Make sure you're available. Help your quarterback out. If he's on the move, set up a block for him. Catch the football for him. Don't make him do it all by himself. He doesn't have to be Superman. He just needs to be able to be there when it matters. Drones, on the other hand, for Virginia Tech, might have to be Superman and have to do it all himself. So do the best you can. If you have a chance to catch the football, save your quarterback, because if not, the Hokies could be in for a real world of hurt on Sunday afternoon. I think Carolina wins and they win big. I think they're out for blood, and I think Shane Beamer and Lenore Sellers and company, Dylan Stewart, are going to put their foot down in a dramatic fashion and send a message to the SEC, the playoff committee, and everybody else that they mean business and they are not frauds, they're not overrated, and they're legit. Carolina big.
So the only thing I keep asking myself is, one, who in Virginia Tech's secondary is going to cover these wide receivers? Nick Harbor is 6'5" and just a freak of nature. Now let's see if he can translate that to the production level that we expect him to get to. The guy's a freak of nature here. The tallest Virginia Tech corner is 6'1". I mean, I get it, but this kid's got the reach. Again, if I'm Sellers, I'm just throwing it up to the guy. Virginia Tech, you want to win this football game, you're going to have to control the game on the ground. You're going to have to get a run game going. Drones is going to have to run the football. The pride of Sandusky, Ohio, and the Blue Streaks, they're Terrion Stewart, who's from Sandusky, Ohio, also home of Callahan Auto Parts, best brake pads out there. Guys, if you don't get that reference, I feel bad for you. And there's no Sandusky Airport. You take a look at those guys. Are you able to run the football? Are you able to get a push against the South Carolina defensive line? Are you able to really hit them in the mouth and kind of shorten this game by keeping the clock going, getting yourself ahead of the sticks in there? That's the only way you do this, because South Carolina, you go up 2 scores, this game is over in the first quarter if South Carolina goes up 14-0. Virginia Tech has got to hang around, got to have the alligator blood in them, and they have to be able to kind of be in it at the end. Force Sellers to make a mistake, force a couple turnovers here where Faison fumbles it, something crazy's got to happen for Virginia Tech in this game. 8 points is way too low. I think Shane Beamer is playing Virginia Tech, playing where his dad coached. He's pissed. He didn't get that job. We've talked about that a couple of years ago, how we always thought that Virginia Tech needed to back up the Brinks truck and bring Shane Beamer home. They didn't do that. They went with Brett Pry, who probably will be fired and bagging groceries or delivering your Instacart by the end of this season. I want Virginia Tech to be good too. And Brett Pry, because I think that there's the ability to recruit at Virginia Tech. And if it takes him getting smoked like a pheasant over there,
that's what it's.
I'll take it. I'm sorry, Virginia Tech. I love you to death. I love your fan base to death. You guys are amazing. This is absolutely no ill will towards the Hokie fan base and Virginia Tech. Brett Pry, isn't it? DoorDasher, Instacarter, Uber Eatser. That's what his next job is.
So it's funny you bring
give
up
me
the
South Carolina big.
It's funny you bring up the Tommy Boy reference. This one should be applicable. I saw a meme today where it shows, they're talking about, I've went to school for 7 years. He's like, yeah, they're called doctors. Well, They changed the line out, and now it's, yeah, they're COVID era quarterbacks. You made to the 2020 season. But yeah, this has to be a program saving Virginia Tech effort, because Carolina might put it to them really, really bad. Hold no bar, take no mercy, hold prisoners, message sending game.
There's better be some fat guys in little coats out there. All right, Fresh. Yeah, I know. Richard, what's happening? Okay, let's go to our next game of the week before I drop into too many Tommy Boy references. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish are our national champion runner-up, I guess we can call them that these days. They're going down for an old clash, an old convicts versus Catholics. At the time of record, Notre Dame is a 2.5-point favorite as they head down into Miami Gardens. Over-under set 49.5. CJ Carr is the starting quarterback. Fresh, we expected that for Notre Dame. To me, it's going to come down which one of these wide receivers steps up for Carr, because I think that, again, Miami's got to prove it that they can defend anybody defensively. And Notre Dame, about this in our preview, Marcus Freeman has earned quite a bit of trust with me. Quite a bit of what he's done over the last 2 years. This is the type of game Marcus Freeman wins. I really am kind of feeling the Irish in this football game, but I'll get a little bit more into what I'm thinking. Fresh, what you got for convicts versus Catholics, part 3 or 4?
Yeah, it's endless banter. But you know what? We need this is a logo versus logo, historic rivalry kind of game to start off.
It's a great one.
Irish 0-6 all time in Miami.
Really?
Putting out there, yeah, 0-6 all time in Miami against the Hurricanes. So just putting it out there, boys and girls. I want to see what resolve this Notre Dame football team has. Because the last time we saw them, they were giving their hearts, giving everything they possibly could to beat Ohio State and win a national championship. And they went on a heck of a run. They were all on the same pace. A lot of veteran, experienced leadership. Who picks up the slack now? A new quarterback. Jeremiah Love's the big time running back there. You lost some offensive linemen. You're bringing back some receivers, but do I really trust the receivers? Defensively, you lost your 2 big time tackles. You lost one of your corners who really actually didn't play much at all last year, but he still was on the sideline. You lose your leader in Watts and Kaiser, and you lose your defensive coordinator who went back to the NFL. Now, as we talked before, Marcus Freeman's really the DC, but still Al Golden being there is another person to bounce ideas off of, and you lose that in-game play calling. So how quickly is this team gelled? Who's ready to rock and roll? Who is going to play at an elite toughness right off the bat? Do they come in with a chip on the shoulder that they lost, or was that just a magical run? And the old Notre Dame, the Notre Dame that lost Northern Illinois last year, is that the one team that shows up? So I want to see the vibe. I want to see how the Irish show up in that game. I'm going to tell you right now, that might be a 50-50 stadium. Because are there even Hurricane fans? No. That might even be 75-25 Notre Dame fans. Ever since Miami moved from the old Orange Bowl to, at Miami Gardens where the Dolphins play, they have zero home field presence. It is a NFL stadium with a tourism-backed crowd. So Notre Dame, you're going to have the fans behind you. Notre Dame the fans are going to travel. If they're going to be there supporting you, you're going to have that extra boost in the second half. But come out and just muck it up, make it ugly, feed Jeremiah Love, and then run play action off of that and get out with the W. You don't have to win pretty. You just need to win because your schedule is an extremely difficult one the entire season. If you can get out here and get this win, it allows momentum to build. If you get this loss, you got A&M coming up there at South Bend. You got to go to Arkansas later. You got some other games. You got USC. Like things could get murky. If you can go out like you did last year, go to A&M and get a win, it sort of builds as a confidence boost for you to go forward. So coming down here, feed off the fans, play defense, run the football, muck it up, and get out. If your pass rush is there and you run some crazy coverages, Carson Beck will throw you the football. How much the Carson Beck factor? His first start for the Hurricanes, he is going to play with a chip on his shoulder to prove that he is better than what he was last year. There's a lot of rumors of him being a diva and not very good in the locker room and just a complete jerk or just a goof. How quickly does he gel with his football team here in Miami? Level of angst approaches he play with. How quickly does him and that receiver group, which is almost gutted from last year, get on the same page? You bring in CJ Daniels, who was at Liberty and then last year at LSU. How quickly is in his third program is he ready to rock and roll in the Clarence offense? That running back group, it's running back by committee. Who else in the receiver group is actually going to show up and become a big time player for Carson? Who's he going to trust on third down? If there's guys dropping the football early, does he start getting some reverb from last year? Does he show any kind of signs of leadership and growth? We hear about the offensive line being this great thing. They haven't played very well, in my opinion, over the few years that Cristobal's been there. Who shows up and looks great? There's a lot of questions. You don't have Cam Ward in that receiver group of Restrepo and all them to save face. But Carson Beck is not mobile. Cam Ward can use his legs. Carson wants to be a pro-style quarterback in the pocket. He throws on time. Will he make great throws? Yeah, he did that at Jordan. He made some great throws. But if you get him flustered, you start throwing crazy coverages, or he starts getting stressed, he will throw you the football and try to do too much. So where is he mentally at? There are rumors of him going through relationship issues as soon as he arrived and doing things that hanging out with people that weren't his alleged girlfriend at the time. Where's his mind at? Is he there for the money? Did he go to Miami because he knew he wasn't going to get drafted very high and he has a chance to get paid more from NIL with the Hurricanes? There's a lot of hype there. I want to see how his psyche is. It's just where is he mentally and where's his team ready at? Defensively, the Hurricanes, your defense can't be any worse than it was last year. You're absolutely horrible. We watched the Iowa State game in the bowl. You guys were stiff. I don't really see much improvement so far. We're going to find out if are they ready to tackle? Are they ready to cover? Where's their heads at? Because right now
Been asking that for a while.
the only you I know is in Salt Lake City, Utah. So where's this kind of swagger at? We heard last year Miami's the great. They're going to be a playoff team. Well, you fumbled that bag. Um, where are you at this year? If you fumble this right here, who wants to go to Miami? I don't care what your boosters pay. Eventually, at some point, winning football games has got to matter, and getting drafted has got to matter, not just going for an a payday. So you got to reset your program, and this might be Chris Ball's last year to really have a chance before people start saying, like, the kids growing up these days, they weren't alive the last time Miami was good. So
Right.
2003 Miami football team was the last elite Hurricane football program. It's 2025, folks. That's 22 years ago. Those kids they don't know the Ed Reeds and the Ray Lewises and
Might
right
have
after they
not
come
even
broken
been
out,
born.
or their dads, moms, and maybe older cousins know, but these kids don't. So where's the tone? Eventually, Miami, you can't set a standard and be actually competitive and show you have a swagger. You're done. I think Notre Dame comes in this ball game and does what they did to A&M last year. They make it ugly. They will put a lot of confusion out there. They win an ugly football game, like 20-17, 24-21. It's not going to be a barn burner. It is going to be a physical war. And I think Notre Dame is much tougher in every area of the football game. And that's what's going to prove out to be better. I also think Marcus Sherman is a better football coach than Mario Cristobal. Notre Dame's going to take it. They're going to set the tone. And we're going to have a lot of questions about the Hurricane football program going forward when it comes to Monday morning.
One of my favorite memes on the internet is the fact that Carson Beck looks like Sid from Ice Age. I was Googling just to make myself laugh of the memes of the two next to each other. And once you see it, you can't unsee they looks like Sid from Ice Age. But there's a quote from Ice Age where Sid says, "You have to forget about your past in order to have a future." And I was like, actually makes a lot of sense in a lot of respects for Miami. And I was thinking about that for Carson Beck. You got to forget about everything that happened at Georgia. You have to forget about everything that happened, whether or not whoever you were dating and all that stuff. We don't get into that type of nonsense. You have to forget about everything, and you have to take this as the opportunity that it is. Are you going to be Jaden Daniels who had all sorts of baggage? And think about this. Jaden Daniels had a ton of issues coming from Arizona State, gets to LSU, and finds a second life. You take a look at Will Howard. Howard was asked to switch to wide receiver or tight end. He enters the portal, wins a national title at Ohio State. Take a look at Quinn Ewers, was always buried at the depth chart. He transfers over to Texas, has a great time there. Michael Penix Jr., who everyone wrote off under the sun. He was electric at Indiana, but then all of a sudden injuries caught up to him. Second life in Washington. There are stories of this happening. There's all these stories of this happening, and Carson Beck has to be that one. And the same thing goes with Miami and their mindset. Again, you haven't been good for 20 plus years. Like, you have not been a national title contender for 20 plus years. ESPN is no longer releasing the U Volume 3. Like, if we release the U Volume 3, like, who's going to be on that? From the 2010s, are we going to see and be like, oh, yeah, you remember that guy? And go, again, what are you doing these days? I'm delivering Instacart. You'd say anything along those lines. This Miami team has to remake itself. You have to change who you are. You have to change what the perception is. Once you do that, then you can bring in we had a 20-year layoff, but we've always been a powerhouse football program. Yeah, Nebraska's trying to do the same thing. They're the exact same as Nebraska. College football is leaving you in the dust, Miami, and you're trying everything under the sun. Your entire defensive backfield is transfers. Our entire team, all 4 starters right now are transfers. If you're Miami, I take that back. Okay, Frederick was there last year. I don't know. Notre Dame, I think the question is, how good is C.J. Carr going to be? Are these wide receivers able to step up? We know how good Jeremiah Love is. This offensive line has another year together. At least now they're sophomores and juniors. I'm worried that this could be an elite level offensive line by the end of the year. There could be some issues going into the season with it. But again, I trust Marcus Freeman way better than I trust Mario Cristobal. Even though this game's in Miami, give me Notre Dame, big, CJ Carr, and Jeremiah Love, multiple touchdown game each. I got Miami not being able to handle Notre Dame at all. Beck turning the ball over a couple of times. Notre Dame by over a touchdown, in my opinion.
I just think, as a Georgia fan, we give Beck at 23. He played really well, threw the ball around. But there were still moments where if Bowers and McConkey, when they both were beat up and injured that year, weren't on the field, he looked lost. And he wasn't, they had to be very creative in the offense and the game planning to get him to feel comfortable. He didn't have the legs like Stetson Bennett did, and that's where the offense kind of took off. And then last year, the guys were dropping balls. You hear rumors of him being in the locker room. Like, where is his mindset at, and what offensively is Miami going to be able to do? Because they are this spread offense. They're going to put him in shotgun, sling it around. And that's exactly what Cam Ward does. But Cam Ward was mobile, and Cam Ward had already shown at Incarnate Word and at Washington State for multiple years as a multiple year starter that he could put up significant numbers year in and year out. And he was the guy. And they were a bunch of no-name receivers who he elevated up. How can Carson Beck elevate the rest of this offense as opposed to needing other guys to make him look higher and look better? So this is going to be a significant game and year for Carson Beck. Won't be the last time we talk about it, but where's his mind at? Is he preparing for the NFL? He has tools, but sometimes the most important tool for anyone is what's between the ears and where is he at on game day.
Yeah. All right, Fresh. One last game of the weekend before we get to our fresh picks here. It's the only game on Monday, and we're talking about it maybe not so much for the players on the field, but for a guy who's on the sideline. TCU is a 3-point favorite playing North Carolina, and Bill Belichick as the head coach of the Tar Heels. That time to record over-under is 56.5. A lot of transfers on this North Carolina team. He remade this team pretty quickly. TCU is kind of the opposite with Sonny Dykes there. Like, you see, a lot of these names are redshirt seniors and juniors. They've had a lot of transfers, but they've at least been in the program for a couple of years. And Josh Hoover, is North Carolina able to get him?
I think Sonny Dykes needs this game like people need air to breathe. I mean, the lasting memory anyone has of Sonny Dykes truly was getting boat raced by the Georgia Bulldogs in the national championship game and then losing the season opener next season to Prime. He has to come out here and have his team ready to rock and roll. You have all that veteran leadership team that actually played really well down the stretch last year. They were kind of hidden, I think, in the middle of the pack of the Big 12, but they played really well. They have to come out in this football game to realize Bill Belichick is not standing on the field playing football. Tom Brady's not playing for him. Teddy Bruschi's not playing for him. Rodney Harrison's not playing for him. He is there, but nobody has any clue what Bill Belichick and his girlfriend, fiance, whatever, their host of 45,000 transfers are going to actually do on a football field for the first time ever. There's no preseason games. They have closed practices during scrimmages during the summer and the fall and spring. We don't know what we're going to get. The quarterback for North Carolina is coming from a couple of years at South Alabama. The guys are coming from everywhere. You can't come in there having a feel of playing Bill Belichick. You're going to probably get some unique looks. You can look at some tape, but overall, go out there and be yourself. Be TCU football and run your offense and run your defense. Show them that you're the experienced, more gelled, cohesive unit. Don't get brought up in the hype. I saw people talking about in an article earlier where TCU players and TCU fans got caught for the hype, like, we're playing prime, we're playing prime, we're playing prime, we're playing Shador, we're playing Travis Hunter. Are they going to be able to, are they going to be that good? Or, oh, we got this in the bag. They're coming up from FCS. They don't know what they're doing. And before they knew it, they were in a ball game. They couldn't keep up with the momentum, and that's why they lost. You have to commit. It's like, we are playing a football team. We're playing North Carolina. The coach can't get on the field and play. Bill Belichick's not bringing his son. Well, he really technically is, but his son's not playing quarterback for him. He's not bringing an all-world player in Travis Hunter. Just go out and play the football game. Call your game. If you want to know what they're going to be like, you can look at what his son calls and what he calls defensively and have an idea on a framework. But the talent, they're trying to figure out who's going to be on the same page as well. Be yourself. North Carolina on the other side. Obviously, Drew's wife, Katie, is a North Carolina alum. So we can't be too judgmental of the Tar football program, but this is going to be a unique experiment. Mac Brown experiment was going back from more of a nostalgia perspective, bringing him back from what he was, years before that, and trying to capture lightning in a bottle again. This is your second go around on a senior citizen head coach. And where's Bill's head? And how can he actually relate to these kids? Does he have his coaching staff ready to rock and roll? I don't think his son can. His son's a weirdo. But where's his coaching staff get themselves ready for a college game and actually take it seriously? Bill, obviously you have a legacy, but your success or failure at North Carolina is not going to tarnish your legacy, in my opinion. You're just doing this because I think you want to get back into coaching and sort of stay connected. And your dad coached at Navy, and you have that itch that you want to scratch. There's no excuse for the state of North Carolina in general to have lack of football success because there's tons of great high school football players in the state of North Carolina. And you being the flagship university means you have every resource at your beck and call. You need to go out here and show up. Your name and image, literally your name and image and likeness should be able to put this North Carolina football team in a premier stance. There's no lack of money. But you've got to come out and actually take it seriously and have your boys ready to play and be able to pop their pads on the opening night there in Keys Stadium. But who on this team is actually ready for that challenge? Who is actually gelled and ready to rock and roll? What's their offensive line like? They don't have a Murray and Hampton at running back. They don't have Derek May or Sam Howell quarterback to become a miracle worker. They don't have an elite Lawrence Taylor-like player on defense to come back out there and get after it. Who's going to be locked in schematically to be in the right spot at the right time and tackle, play, and what we all hear, do your job? These are not professional football players in the overall sense. They're still college kids. Where are their minds at on game day? Are they intimidated by? Are they locked in? What's their vibe with Belichick? Is he taking it seriously? So many questions we're going to get answered on Monday night. TCU has talent, but North Carolina's going to have a first-hat vibe. They're going to have a wave of being the home opener in the Belichick era. If TCU can withstand that and learn the lessons they had from the prime game 2 years ago, they'll be able to pull away in the second half. I'm taking TCU to win this game. I think they're matured enough from that first, and they learned from that experience. But if North Carolina can get momentum and jump them early, it will make things interesting.
Fresh, if we were getting funky like a monkey baby in Fort Worth, Texas, I think I'd be leaning real hard. Like, Sonny Dykes is going to have this team ready to go. I just have no earthly idea what we're going to get from North Carolina. And that's going to be the best reason to watch this. Because you could either see an amazing ball game to two teams that are pretty evenly matched. It's a fight, it's a mid-card fight. Neither one of these teams is probably winning their conference. Neither one of these teams is competing for a playoff spot, but they're probably competing for like the Pop-Tart Bowl. Pop-Tart Bowl has become a favorable bowl.
Texas Pop-Tart Bowl.
I like the Pop-Tart Bowl. We both like it. It could either be like this mid-card fight between two decent programs in your conference, or it could be TCU coming in blowing out North Carolina, or it could be Belichick going, listen, I told you all, I know how to coach football. Let me show you how to coach football. And North Carolina is better prepared than any other program week one, and they put the boots to Sonny Dike and TCU. I have no earthly idea how this game's going to work out. I really don't. Because, again, this is, while the transfer portal giveth, the transfer portal also taketh awayeth. Because there's so many new pieces on this, and you're like, well, shoot, I got no idea how these pieces are going to gel together. I'm going to lean the home team in this game. I'm going to lean Belichick just because they're going to be at North Carolina. And it's going to be an amped up environment. It's going to be a packed house. It's going to be a sellout probably because it is the first game of the season. It is the first game with Bill Belichick as your head coach. I think North Carolina fans are really going to come out for it. It's going to be an amazing game to watch, at least for the first quarter and a half, maybe 2 quarters. TCU, again, if I knew more about North Carolina, I'd be with you fresh. I'm staying away from this game in regards to anything, taking anyone in it. But if I'm like making a pick for our show here, I'll go North Carolina just for the home field stuff. But I'm watching them because I think after this week we're going to have a real good sense on what kind of college football coach Bill Belichick's going to be.
Yeah, I just want to see how they play. They might not win, but are they going to come out and be gelled and more refined? Because we saw some Carolina teams last year and the year before that, it looked like Mac had lost them, and
Right.
they were just going through the motions. I want to see if this team come out disciplined, do the little things right. If they can, at least it shows there is some attention. There is some people who are locked in, actually taking it seriously, and that actually will spur the 2026 and 2027 versions when they feel also can see the same questions being answered of, you know what, Bill's taking this seriously. This isn't a sideshow. I'm going to go actually learn from the GOAT.
Yeah. All right, Fresh, let's get to this week's Fresh Picks. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, this year at the end of every episode, Fresh is going to give you his Fresh Picks. The only rule, you can't pick a team twice all year long. So the only team right now, Fresh, you're 1-0, took Hawaii -2 in week 0. You got 2 teams for us this week. Who do you got?
Well, I got 2 picks. I'm also going to set the line for the TCU North Carolina game. Over under video shots of Belichick's girlfriend will be set at 37. Take the over under as you go from there. And for my 2 fresh picks, the first one, I'm taking the Georgia Southern Eagles to cover the 1.5, traveling out to Fresno State. That Fresno State football team, they're playing Kansas, but they look pretty bad. And Georgia Southern has a little football team. They're playing much better. Clay Helton's looking for a big win. I'm taking them to cover the 1.5. The other game, Utah UCLA. I'm taking the Utes and Kyle Whittingham's last season opener at UCLA to cover the 6. Utes cover the 6. Golden Eagles, Georgia Southern Eagles cover the 1.5. 2 big road favorites cover both games in California, and that's how we're going to cover and get after week 1.
I love the Utah pick, man. I really do. I love the Utah pick and Kyle Whittingham in that one because I think that everyone under the sun thinks that Utah forgot how to play. It's been one season that Utah was bad. One.
They were beat up last year. And Dampier coming over from New Mexico, the defense is going to be better. And as we all know, Nico isn't exactly the greatest quarterback, and that is going to show itself. I like that one, and I also like Georgia Southern Eagles. I think there's a vibe there. That team is. It's about time Clay Helton gets Georgia Southern back on the mat, play some good football, and this is a chance for them to start the season off right and send a message.
Yeah. All right, folks, you've been listening to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. Make sure you check out SpinnableSports.com because the Irrational Confidence Podcast is part of SpinnableSports.com. Special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. We appreciate everything he does behind the scenes to get this show up and going. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, get notified every single time we drop a new episode because, guys, we will be with you all season long. I can't wait for it fresh. We are in week 1. We'll have our wrap-up show sometime over the weekend to time to talk about all of the great games that we have had. But college football is officially here. It's the start of the season. Let's get after it.
Before we know it, we'll be in week 2, week 3, conference play games. It'll be fantastic. Hit us up on SpinnableSports.com. We just dropped our preseason first and second team All-American squads. We also have conference previews, best quarterbacks, a lot of great stuff. Also, subscribe to the Spinnable Sports YouTube channel and your podcast platforms everywhere. Hit us up on socials, on Twitter, at IRConfidencePod, at Spinnable Sports. And with that, we'll talk to you with our recap. Bye, y'all.